Welcome to Choppin' It Up at Camp Deer Park. Camp Deer Park is a ministry of Mennonite churches. The New York City Mennonite churches, a community of Christ where children and youth, families from all cultures are welcome to fellowship together in the serenity of God's creation. Choppin' It Up is the opportunity for you to learn to know some of our wonderful people who are collectively with the Camp Deer Park family. And tonight, we have Dale. You will meet Dale Stoltzfus.
Actually, Duane Stoltzfus, the son of Dale Stoltzfus.
You will learn who Dale is as we continue. Sorry.
Everybody at Camp Deer Park knows Dale Stoltzfus.
Right. I'm so
Not
sorry.
everybody knows Duane Stoltzfus. However, in the first probably 15 years of Camp Deer Park, more people knew Duane probably than Dale. I got a quick story. I'm Ken, and Kevin and Ashley are here as well, and Duane. A woman called Camp Deer Park, and she said, "I don't remember the name of the camp. I don't know where it was, but Duane and Donna worked there." And I'm like, aha, that was Duane and Donna Stoltzfus. And yes, it's Camp Deer Park. And the only thing that she remembered out of everything of her camp experience was Duane and Donna. Isn't that something?
Wow.
Anyway, Duane, welcome. We're so thrilled to have you with us for half an hour here to chop it up about your memories of Camp Deer Park. So you were like 9 years old in 1969 when you first came to Camp Deer Park. So tell us a little bit about those early memories. How did a 9-year-old kid from the Bronx experience Camp Deer Park back in that day?
Well, I can tell you that summer, Ken, was the summer of the moon landing, right? And
That's right, yeah.
And I probably should have been just focused on that, but Camp Deer Park in my 9-year-old mind overshadowed anything else that was going on in the world. I think one of the most powerful images from that time is the very first drive up from 209, that winding road, and opening up into the space that was just filled with green grass and these beautiful buildings, and there were some lingering touches of the country club days, these golf greens and flags, and it was just amazing. It was like a kind of paradise that opened up unexpectedly as you're driving up through the woods. What do I remember? Campfires. They were all a kind of sacred, magical time at Deer Park. All these people would gather, and it would gradually get dark, and you'd be around this campfire singing together. There was a sense of common purpose and common spirit that was just so powerful. I loved running barefooted on the grass. I hadn't had a chance to do that in New York City. That was tremendous. There was a place right next to the dining hall where the water would flow down in the stream, and it would pour onto this hollowed out log, or this kind of U-shaped log, and then it would go down to the end and fall off on like a 3-foot drop. And standing there and just drinking that water was amazing. It was the best tasting water I've ever had. And now I'm 62. How about that?
Wow.
Wow. So were you ever a camper here?
I was at least a couple of times, and it was a bit of a challenge, I would say, to shift from living in a motel and kind of pack up a little bag and then walk 100 yards into the annex and then become a camper and leave my family behind. I love the opportunity to make friends over the course of the week, and one of the, well, there was always great joy when that yellow school bus came up and campers poured out. But at the end of that week, when people loaded up with suitcases, and I realized that, some of the people I'd made friends with this week at camp, I was probably never going to see again. I'd like to believe I would, but in truth, it didn't happen. And there was that moment in time that was really quite special, but fleeting, as they say. Yeah.
I remember one time Ben Stevens and myself kind of watched the bus pull down. This would have been in the 90s. We watched the bus pull down and we kind of walked out on the road, to follow the bus a little bit. And we're just standing beside each other on Brant Road and we're both just crying. We're just crying uncontrollably, with our arms around each other. That the emotions of that are so intense, man. So intense. Yeah, absolutely.
So Duane, so you were a camper, and you remember that. Were you ever a staff member or a young adult working here at camp? And if you were there any life lessons that you still use to this day?
Yeah, good question. I had a chance to do a few different things. I played a few different roles. I was a counselor multiple times, and worked in the kitchen, worked in maintenance. I will tell you a story about the kitchen. Like, this is like a life lesson. I would never do this again. There was a big tank of hot water, and you would push these trays in and out of this kind of curtained off washer, and the hot water was just flying in there. And so you'd have these rubber gloves that would go up to your elbows and beyond. And at one point, I dropped some silverware down in that hot water without thinking. I knew I had rubber gloves and I could touch hot water and it wouldn't affect me, right? Because they were just good for the hottest of water and provided protection. But I reached down in and I went far enough that I went below the water line, and hot water went running into my thumb. And oh my gosh, I've never felt pain like that, and had to go see the nurse, the camp nurse. Thank goodness for the camp nurse. I'll tell you one other. So yes, be careful in washing dishes. I'll tell you one other story that comes to mind. This is probably not the life lessons you had in mind when you asked the question, but I would work on maintenance some summers, and I was mowing the lawn on that big old tractor. And I'm not a farm kid, but I learned how to run that tractor, and I thought, what fun to be out there on the lawn mowing that, and feeling pretty good. And I started singing, and the mower sound was so loud, I was sure that only I was listening to the singing. No one could possibly hear me well. Several people came up to me later on and talked about, my song selection, and maybe I was a little bit flat in that one lyric. And anyway,
that's funny.
So everyone on the whole camp could hear you singing, but you couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, for better or for worse. On a more serious note, with regard to kind of life lessons from the camp experience, what impressed me then and stuck with me in the years since is the way in which a community is needed to run that camp, how many different roles there are, and how dependent one person is on another, and the ways in which, when you've got people working together in a fairly smooth running organization, you can do amazing things with sometimes a really challenging group of campers. And campers who, I never quite got this, why we would give them candy at 9 o'clock at night, right before bedtime. I loved it. I wasn't complaining, but
Wayne, I'm complaining. Because we still do that to this day. And just a funny story is, when I started being a program director, I said, okay, let's take away the candy and let's put some apples and snacks. And They did not want that. So the candy came right back.
Yeah, I think through the years, numerous people have tried to make the evening snack shop more healthy, and I think it has been shot down every time. I think I've heard stories of, yeah, several times that it has tried. So Duane, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. What is your occupation? And I guess more specifically, you know, how are you having kingdom impact where you are today?
I went to college here in Goshen, Indiana, and graduated in '81. After that, I went back to New York, lived in New York and New Jersey, and for about 20 years was working for newspapers there. So I was a journalist in the first part of my career, and then came here to Goshen College to teach 22 years ago. So I found a good home here. I really enjoy teaching, and I guess, what is it about teaching? Every day is different. Every day I'm learning. I walk into a classroom and engage students, and there is no scripting of that day. We'll see what happens. We'll see what questions get asked. We'll see what matters in the moment to the students that I'm with. And you ask about, well, the other part of academia that's great, and it you know, it connects to camp in that the work has seasons to it. And you know, the biggest season, of course, at Deer Park is going to be the summer season, right? When the students the campers arrive and transform the place. And on a college campus here at Goshen, we've got the fall semester and spring semester that start and end, and then a time to sort of rest for a bit and prepare for the next startup. And that kind of a time flow really agrees with me. I appreciate it a lot. Kingdom impact, boy, where do you come up with these? These are tough questions, and you want me to answer that for myself. Oh, I would say that Goshen College is a Mennonite college rooted in the church, with core values that include Christ-centered at its heart. So there is a sense in which, in the most natural way, I'm working on behalf of the church. And yet, if you're asking for some specifics or something that would maybe illustrate that, I would say I don't feel like I'm going to work. It's rather, this is just what I do. And I have the great privilege of being able to spend time with amazing young people. And if I can, in my role, help to lift them up in some way, or help them to see what they can accomplish, on their own with some encouragement. And if at the end of the 4 years they leave and they have a better sense or a stronger commitment to what it would mean to match some of the great needs in the world with their skills, their interests, their deep gladness, if they can find that pairing, so they're not driven to go make as much money as they can or to, impress people, but instead they leave with the kind of service mindset to do good in the world in the very short time that each one of us has been given to do that. Wow, that's just, to me, that's kingdom work that is, I'm privileged to join in.
Very similar to camp work, isn't it? The period of time is longer, it's 4 years, and camp is 1 week, but yeah, similar, right? Yeah.
So you grew up in the Bronx and now you live in Indiana. So tell us something about where you live that we might not know.
Well, first off, there's an open invitation. Anytime any of you want to come to visit Goshen, Indiana, I hope you'll do so. It's right near the Michigan line. So just head west, stay in the northern part of the state, about, I don't know, 20 miles or so from Michigan, go about halfway across the state of Indiana, and then just start looking for signs. When you make it to Goshen, you'll find it's a small town of about 35,000. You won't have trouble parking here. That's not an issue. And we've got some great shops downtown we can take you to, including soon it's going to be the weather for the chief. They've been named top ice cream shop in the state of Indiana. So the first cone is on me.
Hey.
And plenty of parking.
Okay, awesome. Talking about great food, this past in the fall, I know your family came up for family camp, and I wanted to know how did it feel coming back? Like, how was that journey for you and your family?
Yes, well, I had not had a chance until October to see the new cabins. Wow. I just remembered this field that you would go on the hay rides on a wagon, and you'd climb up this field and you'd be bumping along, and that's all that it was. And then it sort of narrowed at the end, and there was this little trail that led out to the dump. That was it. So this was the first time I had a chance to see these cabins and to stay in one. It was so nice, lovely. I'm looking forward to the next visit. Really transformed that space, and the common room. I don't know what the right name is for that building.
We call it the Promise Center.
Promise Center. Yeah, we spent time in there too, and that was just great. Really, a setting that, I don't know, it makes you feel good. It brings you together with other people, and yeah, look forward to it again. Now, you mentioned food. Okay, so I knew some things had changed when the bell rang and we went into the dining room, and I see this guy who was standing there with some kind of a white chef's coat on. I don't know if you call it a coat or what you call it, but it's like, wow, okay. I always thought Camp Deer Park had good food, but this is taking it up another notch. And yeah, I felt a little bit like I was eating in a restaurant during that weekend.
Yeah, Rick is serious about food, that's for sure. He's serious about good food, and yeah, and we probably all eat a little too much every weekend, to be honest with you. When the Stoltzfus family came back together, what was kind of like the highlight? What was the most meaningful part of that for you?
Well, I'm not going to allow you to pin me down to just one thing, Ken. So
okay.
I will say, eating together with you and others in that dining room was a highlight of the weekend, and seeing people like Lenny Torres. Hadn't seen Lenny in years. Jerry and Leonore Kennel were there that weekend, so we were just all kind of finding each other. Lowell and Ruthie were there, and including sharing some mealtime together. The other highlight of the weekend for me was taking walks on the trails, and I don't remember the trails having those same color designations. So like the red trail didn't communicate to me the way that it would for all of you who've spent the recent years there. But that was great, just to have time to talk and be together in the woods, and not get lost. That was all a good, important part of the weekend.
So I saw your family, y'all did a walk around camp. Did any stories come up? Oh, do you remember? Like, the annex is not here anymore. Like, did any stories come to mind? And or even you speaking about the trails, so you're kind of similar to Nehemiah, who's Ken's youngest child. So Nehemiah runs around, camp, and that used to be, this is your playground. What did any memories come back for you guys?
Yeah, well, I would say there were no fond memories of the annex. Although I remember it, and I can tell you, I think I was a part of at least a very small, modest part of adding paint to the annex about 3 or 4 different summers. It seemed like, every summer it needed to be refreshed with another coat of white paint. We walked over toward the sledding slope and just remembered what it was like to go up to camp on a winter day and climb to the top of that hill. And it was terrifying to
see it again, right?
To get on a toboggan with 4 or 5, 6 other people all wrapped up together and launch down that hill. But it was exhilarating in the very best way.
Awesome.
That just happened. That just happened again 2 weeks ago. The Garifna men went down, and they weren't sure they were going to make it out alive. It was very fast. I'm going to jump in and ask another question that we didn't prep you for. So your father was the director, right? Did you, as a camp kid, and that your father was the director at a time when camp was rough. It was tough going. Did you as a camp kid feel the pressure of that?
My parents have always been really good about, I would say, shielding us kids from the stresses or challenges in their life. And I would say that was true of Camp Deer Park as well. But there's only so much you can keep from children who are paying attention. Mm-hmm. And I can remember going with my father to a local supermarket. Would give the wrong impression. It was just like a local community store, fairly small. Mm-hmm. And we needed to get some supplies, presumably for the next meal. So it was often, in those early days, it seemed like you were just going from meal to meal, trying to pull things together and put them on the table. So we were in this store, and my dad had a grocery cart, and he was putting cans in that cart. And this older man came over, and as I remember it, he was yelling at my father, and it stayed with me. He was upset because we were taking all of the cans of, Campbell's soup or beans or whatever that was that he was loading in the cart at that time. And so, yeah, I had a sense of my dad was a little bit out here on the edge trying to make this thing go, and you never knew where you were going to face some headwinds. And this just happened to be in a little food store where a grouchy guy apparently didn't want to sell everything he had in stock.
Yeah, that's good.
Nice. So you're a part of the Promise Circle, a monthly donor to Camp Deer Park. So what was your thought process in deciding to become a donor?
Yeah. Some people are well positioned to be major donors. I am not in that group. But what I've found over the years is that many of us can give over time large amounts if we give in small amounts, but we give regularly, consistently, and ideally without even thinking about it at some level. If it becomes automatic, you don't have to remember to write out a check. It just disappears, and often without being noticed from a checking account. So, and I like the idea of being a part of that circle, if you will, being one of a group of people who together are wanting to hold something up, keep it going in the best way, let it flourish.
You're making me a little emotional there, Duane. A little bit. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Duane, we are coming to a conclusion soon. And I would like to know something that we do now is we have themes every year. And with those themes, we have a shirt. I would like to know, did we have a shirt way back then? And if we had shirts, do you still have any of those shirts? Hey! Hey!
I don't know what year this is, but I think it's a pretty old version.
That is an old one. Yeah, that's yeah. I don't think that one dates all the way back to your days. That might have been a little bit later, but yeah. Wow. All right. Very good. All right. So hey, rapid fire. Okay, we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and you got to answer as quickly as you can. Would you rather? Would you rather Campfire at Shalom or JCTV?
JCTV.
Okay, all right. We don't use JCTV that much anymore, right, Kevin? Or we still do once a week?
Not that. It's not that much.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would be out there by myself.
JCTV is now like the outer reaches of. It's like a little ways out there. All right. Would you rather Spruce Lodge or the Annex?
Oh, Spruce Lodge, please.
Would you rather hang out in the Alamo or on the basketball court?
Basketball court.
Okay. And Orange Trail or Red Trail? So that would be Horseshoe Trail or Backward.
Oh, Horseshoe Trail. Which one is that?
Yeah, Orange Trail. So we used Kevin and Ashley. The Orange Trail back in their day was called the Horseshoe Trail. So the Horseshoe Trail was orange. The yellow was called the Miners Trail. Okay, because that's where the flagstones were. The white was called, I don't remember, and the red was called the Director's Trail. But I don't know what the white one was called. You don't remember that, right? The first loop going back. Anyway.
The Back 40 Trail, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, would you rather front porch of Spruce Lodge or front porch of the motels?
Oh, Spruce Lodge, please.
Spruce Lodge all the way. Huh? Yeah, you know, we all love Spruce Lodge, right? That's the spot. Duane, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. This has been great. This has been very educational for all of us. We really appreciate it. So, folks, if you are listening on Facebook Live, if you get to Goshen and you find Duane, the first ice cream cone is on him, and there's plenty of free parking. Okay, so that goes for everyone here. I don't know if it does or not. Hey, thanks for joining us. Next week we have Andres Carrion from Brooklyn. Andres was a camper, a staff person. No, he wasn't a camper; he was a staff. He was a counselor for years, and now is an architect engineer, right? An engineer in Brooklyn. And then the following week we have Pastor Omar and Tanya Guzman from Evangelical Garifta Church, Manhattan. And then that wraps up Chopping It Up for this year. So Duane, thanks a lot for being with us. This has been fun. It's been great. Really appreciate your answers.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Hey, let's close with a prayer. God, thank you so much for your love for us. Thank you for Camp Deer Park. Thank you for all the people that together make the circle that holds and sustains this place. And so we are so very grateful. We're thankful just to have a place that the image that Duane gave us was coming up the winding road and then opening into the open space of paradise. And we are so grateful to have this place. So thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, Duane, thanks a lot.
Amen.
Good night, Facebook. Thanks for being with us. Kevin, Ashley, thank you so much.